The lock clicked open with a familiar sound, but everything else felt wrong. Mother's house key felt heavier in my hand, weighted with finality. I pushed open the front door, and the wrongness hit me like a physical force. Gone was the gentle scent of lavender that had always perfumed these halls. Instead, an artificial pine freshener assaulted my nose. The walls, once adorned with my mother's cherished art collection, now displayed generic landscape prints in gaudy gold frames. "Jenna, we weren't expecting you until tomorrow." My father's voice carried from the kitchen, casual as if he hadn't abandoned us 10 years ago. "I'm Jenna, and this was supposed to be my homecoming." Instead, I stood frozen in my mother's foyer. No, my foyer now, staring at the stranger who shared my DNA. "Surprise," I said, my voice flat. "Where's Laura?" "She's upstairs, settling in. Listen, sweetheart." "Don't call me that." The words shot out before I could stop them. "Why are you here, Mark?" He flinched at the use of his first name. Good. Let him feel a fraction of the pain he'd caused. "Your mother and I had an arrangement," he said, running his hand through his graying hair. "Laura and I would help maintain the property in her final months." Final months? I stepped closer, my boots clicking against the hardwood floors Mother had lovingly restored. "She died suddenly. There were no final months." A shadow crossed his face. "Well, yes, but—" "Mark, who are you talking to?" Laura's voice drifted down the stairs, followed by her perfectly manicured presence. Her face tightened when she saw me. "Oh, Jenna, how unexpected." "It's my house," I said. "I don't need an invitation." Laura's laugh was like breaking glass. "Of course not, dear. We're just trying to help. Your mother would have wanted—" "Don't." My voice shook. "Don't you dare tell me what my mother would have wanted." "Now, Jenna." Mark stepped between us, playing peacemaker like he hadn't been the one to shatter our family in the first place. "We thought it would be easier if we were already moved in when you arrived, help you transition." "Moved in?" The words didn't make sense. "You're not staying here." "Actually," Laura smiled, all teeth and triumph, "we are. Your father and I discussed it, and we think it's best if we all live here together, as a family." A door creaked upstairs, and a young woman appeared. Emily, my half-sister, the replacement child. She looked between us, anxiety written across her features. "The will hasn't even been read," I said, my hands clenching into fists. "This is my inheritance." "About that," Mark cleared his throat. "There might be some complications." The world tilted sideways. "What complications?" "Nothing for you to worry about right now," Laura cut in smoothly. "Why don't you take your old room? We've kept it exactly as you left it." I looked at her, really looked at her. The careful makeup, the expensive clothes, the calculating eyes. Then at Mark, shifting his weight, avoiding my gaze. Finally, at Emily, who seemed to be trying to disappear into the wallpaper. "My mother's death certificate listed natural causes," I said slowly. "But there was nothing natural about it, was there?" The silence that followed was deafening. "I think," Laura said finally, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes cold, "you should be very careful about what you're implying." "Or what?" "Or you might find yourself with nothing at all." She gestured around the foyer. "Your mother made some interesting decisions near the end. It would be a shame if certain documents came to light." I felt the trap closing around me, saw the gleam of victory in Laura's eyes, the guilt in Mark's face. Even Emily looked away. "Fine," I said, the word tasting like ash. "I'll stay, for now." Laura's smile widened. "Welcome home, dear. I'm sure we'll all get along famously." I climbed the stairs to my old room, each step an effort. But as I reached the landing, I made a silent promise to my mother. They thought they had won, but they didn't know me. They didn't know what I was capable of. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. 3 days into our forced cohabitation, and Laura had already rearranged Mother's kitchen. I stood in the doorway, watching her sort through the spice rack, tossing bottles into a cardboard box. "These are all expired," she announced without looking up. "Really, your mother should have been more organized." My fingers curled around the door frame. "Those aren't expired. They're homegrown. The dates are when she planted them." Laura's perfectly manicured hand paused mid-toss. "Oh, well, they're taking up too much space. I need room for my own things." The sound of the front door opening saved me from responding. Mark walked in, briefcase in hand, Emily trailing behind him like a shadow. "Everything okay in here?" He glanced between us, already playing mediator. "Perfectly fine," Laura chirped. "Just doing some much-needed organizing. This kitchen was chaos." "This kitchen was home," I muttered, moving to rescue Mother's prized rosemary. Laura's hand shot out, gripping my wrist. "Careful, dear. Wouldn't want you to hurt yourself." The threat in her voice was subtle but clear. I yanked my hand back, catching Emily's wide-eyed stare from across the room. "I'm making dinner tonight," Laura continued. "Family meal, non-negotiable." "I have plans with Mia." "Cancel them?" She smiled, all teeth. "Family comes first, doesn't it, Mark?" He cleared his throat. "Listen to your stepmother, Jenna." The word stepmother hit like a slap. I turned to leave, but Laura's voice followed me. "Oh, and Jenna, I'll need your mother's old study. I'm turning it into my home office." I froze. The study was sacred ground, Mother's sanctuary, filled with her books, her papers, her life's work. "No." "No?" Laura's eyebrows arched. "I don't think you understand. This isn't a request. And this isn't your house." I spun around. "Those aren't your things to throw away or change or—" "Actually," Mark cut in, "according to the preliminary paperwork." "What paperwork?" Silence fell. Mark and Laura exchanged glances. "Show me," I demanded. "It's complicated, sweetheart," Mark began. "Stop calling me that. Show me the paperwork." Laura sighed dramatically. "Emily, go to your room." "I want to stay," Emily said quietly, the first words I'd heard from her since I arrived. "Room, now." Emily hesitated, then slipped past me, her shoulder brushing mine. For a moment, I felt something pressed into my hand, a folded piece of paper. "The situation is delicate," Laura said, drawing my attention back. "Your mother made some questionable decisions near the end. The house's ownership isn't as straightforward as you might think." "You're lying." "Am I?" She pulled open a drawer, retrieved a folder. "See for yourself." The documents inside were legal gibberish, but one thing stood out. Mother's signature, shaky and uncertain. Nothing like her usual confident scrawl. "This isn't real," I said, but doubt crept in. "She wouldn't," but she did. Laura's voice dripped false sympathy. "She knew she needed help managing things. That's why she reached out to us." "She never mentioned you, never said anything about—" "Because she was protecting you," Mark said. "She didn't want you to worry." I looked between them. Laura's smug satisfaction, Mark's practiced concern. The paper Emily had slipped me burned in my pocket. "Fine," I said finally. "Keep the study. Keep whatever you want." Laura's triumph was immediate. "I knew you'd be reasonable. Now, about dinner." "I still have plans." I headed for the stairs, their protests following me up. In my room, I unfolded Emily's note. The handwriting was rushed, urgent. "Check the loose floorboard under Mom's desk. There's something you need to see." I pressed the paper to my chest, heart pounding. For the first time since arriving, I felt something besides anger and grief, hope. Mother had always been methodical, always had a backup plan. Laura's voice carried up the stairs, discussing renovation plans with Mark. Let them plot. Let them think they'd won. Tonight, after their precious family dinner, I'd find out what Mother had hidden away, and then we'd see who really owned this house. The bank statement spread across my bedroom floor told a story that made my blood run cold. Mother's careful financial records, hidden exactly where Emily said they'd be, revealed a pattern of withdrawals starting 3 months before her death. Large sums transferred to an account I didn't recognize. My phone buzzed. Mia's text read, "Found something. Meet me at Riverside Cafe. Now." I crept downstairs, past Laura and Mark's bedroom, where their muffled voices leaked through the door. "She's getting too close," Laura was saying. "We need to—" "I'll handle it," Mark interrupted. "Just stick to the plan." The front door creaked despite my careful exit. Outside, Tom, our neighbor, was watering his lawn in the dark. Odd for 10 at night. He watched me walk to my car, phone pressed to his ear. Mia waited at our usual corner table, laptop open. "Your father's company filed for bankruptcy last year," she said without preamble. "But get this, 2 months before your mom died, he suddenly paid off all his debts." The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "How much?" "Nearly $500,000. She turned the screen toward me. "The same amount missing from your mom's accounts." "There's more." I pulled out the documents I'd found. "Look at these signatures, the transfer authorizations, the power of attorney. They're all dated after she started showing symptoms, when her hands were shaking too badly to write properly," Mia finished. The cafe door chimed. Emily walked in looking nervous. She slid into our booth without invitation. "Mom's planning something," she whispered. "I heard her on the phone with someone named Davidson. Something about finalizing paperwork tomorrow." "Davidson?" Mia's fingers flew across her keyboard. "James Davidson, the real estate developer?" My stomach dropped. "The one buying up all the historic properties downtown?" Emily nodded. "They're meeting at his office at noon. Mom thinks I'm at study group, but I followed her last time. She's been there before." "Why are you helping me?" I asked suddenly. "They're your parents." Emily's hands trembled around her untouched water glass. "Because I was there the night before your mom died. I heard them arguing about the house, about money. Mom said something about making it look natural. I didn't understand then, but now—" The cafe seemed to tilt sideways. "You think Laura—" "I don't know," Emily cut in quickly. "But I found these in her desk." She slid a pharmacy receipt across the table. "Prescription medications filled the day before Mother died." "The toxicology report," I whispered. "We need to get—" The cafe door chimed again. Laura walked in, her heels clicking against the floor. Emily went pale. "What a coincidence," Laura said, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Family meeting without the whole family?" "Just catching up," I said, but Emily was already gathering her things, avoiding her mother's gaze. "Emily, the car's outside, now." Laura's voice left no room for argument. To me, she added, "Oh, and Jenna, your father wants to discuss the Davidson contract tomorrow, noon sharp." After they left, Mia gripped my hand. "You can't sign anything." "I won't." I stared at the documents scattered between our coffee cups. "But I need to be at that meeting. I need to know what they're planning." "It's dangerous. If Laura really did—" "My mother's dead," I cut her off, "and they're about to sell her house to a developer who'll tear it down. I need proof, Mia. Real proof." "And then what?" The question hung between us. Through the cafe window, I watched Laura's car pull away, Emily's silhouette rigid in the passenger seat. In my pocket, the forged signatures seemed to burn against my leg. "Then I take everything from them," I said, "just like they took everything from her." Mia closed her laptop. "The police won't help without evidence, but tomorrow at Davidson's office—" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through contacts until I found the name I needed. "I think it's time I had a conversation with Tom. He's been watching this house for years. He must know something." "Be careful," Mia warned. "You're playing a dangerous game." I looked at the prescription receipt, at the date that marked my mother's last day alive. "They started this game," I said. "I'm just making sure they lose." Tom's backyard was a mess of half-finished projects, but his kitchen was military neat. He poured coffee into a chipped mug, hand steady despite the late hour. "Your mother came to me first," he said, "about the missing money." "When?" "Week before she died. Said Mark had been pressuring her to sign some papers. She refused." He set the mug down hard enough to slosh coffee onto the counter. "Next thing I know, she's dead and they're moving in." "Why didn't you tell the police?" "With what proof?" His laugh was bitter. "Look, I've known Mark longer than you've been alive. Back when we were partners in the construction business, before he embezzled half our savings and left me to face the creditors. The pieces clicked together. That's why you've been watching the house, waiting for history to repeat itself." He pulled out a folder. "These are copies of everything I've gathered. Bank records, business dealings, phone logs. But there's something else." A key slid across the table. "Your mother gave me this. Said if anything happened to her, I should make sure you got it. Safety deposit box at First National." My phone buzzed. "Emily, Mom found the papers in your room. She's destroying everything. I have to go." I grabbed the key, my hands shaking. "Thank you for—" "Wait." Tom caught my arm. "There's more. Laura, she's not who she claims to be. Her real name is—" Headlights swept across the kitchen windows. A car door slammed. "That's Mark's car," Tom whispered. "Out the back. Now." I slipped through the dark yard, heart pounding. Through the neighbor's hedge, I watched Mark stride up Tom's walkway, Laura right behind him. The house was dark when I returned, except for light spilling from my room. I crept upstairs, hearing papers rustling. "Find it?" Mark's voice drifted down the hall. "Nothing useful." Laura sounded frustrated. "But she knows something. That little coffee shop meeting with Emily." "Emily?" Mark's voice sharpened. "What was she doing there?" "Being a naive little fool, like always. But don't worry, I've handled it." My blood ran cold. I pulled out my phone, texted Emily. No response. "We need to move faster," Laura continued. "Davidson won't wait forever. The house isn't even in our name yet. It will be, once we get rid of our little problem." I backed away, but the floor creaked. The rustling stopped. "Jenna?" Mark called. "Is that you?" I ran. Down the stairs, through the kitchen, out the back door. Behind me, footsteps thundered. My car was blocked in by Mark's. I sprinted toward the street, but Laura's voice rang out. "Emily won't answer her phone, will she?" I stopped dead. "Come inside, dear. Let's talk about your sister's safety." I turned slowly. Laura stood on the porch, her smile triumphant. Mark hovered behind her, looking uncertain. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing permanent, yet." She held up her phone. "She's having a lovely sleepover at Davidson's lake house. Very remote, very private." "You're bluffing." A video appeared on her screen. Emily, unconscious on an unfamiliar couch. Inside now. I walked back like a puppet on strings. In the kitchen, Laura pulled out a stack of papers. "Sign these and Emily comes home. Refuse." She shrugged. "Accidents happen." "Mark," I turned to my father. "She's your daughter." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Just sign the papers, Jenna, please." I looked at the documents. Property transfer, power of attorney, liability waivers, everything they needed to take the house, to erase Mother's last wishes. "You killed her, didn't you?" I said to Laura. "My mother, you killed her for this house." "Prove it." Her smile never wavered. "Oh, wait, I destroyed all your evidence. Now sign." I picked up the pen, my mother's voice echoing in my head. "Sometimes, sweetheart, you have to lose a battle to win the war." I signed. Laura gathered the papers, practically glowing. "See, that wasn't so hard." "Emily," I said, "bring her home." "Tomorrow, after we filed these." She patted my cheek. "Sweet dreams, dear." They left me alone in the kitchen. I pulled out Tom's key, thinking of the safety deposit box, of Emily's fear, of Mother's last days. Tomorrow, they'd learn what it meant to truly lose everything. The safety deposit box held one item, a USB drive labeled insurance. I plugged it into my laptop at First National's private viewing room, hands trembling. Video files filled the screen, security footage from Mother's home office, dated weeks before her death. Laura's voice came through clearly. "Just sign the papers, Catherine. Make this easier on everyone. Get out of my house." Mother's voice was weak but determined. "Your daughter doesn't need this burden. Let Mark handle everything." Like he handled his construction company with Tom? Laura's face hardened. "Careful, Catherine. Accidents happen to people who dig too deep." The timestamp jumped forward 2 days. Mother was alone, speaking directly to the camera. "Jenna, if you're watching this, they've already made their move. The proof you need is in Davidson's office, project files from 2012, Mark's original fraud, Laura's real identity, everything." The door opened behind her. The video cut out. My phone buzzed. Mia. "Emily's awake, tracked her phone to Davidson's lake house. Police won't help without proof of danger." Another message followed. "Tom's gone. His house is empty." I dialed Emily's number again. This time, she answered. "Don't come here," she whispered. "Mom's planning." The line went dead. The bank's fluorescent lights suddenly felt too bright, too exposing. I copied the files and headed for the exit, but froze at the sight of Mark waiting by my car. "We need to talk," he said. "About what? How you helped Laura kill my mother?" "You don't understand. Laura, she's not who you think she is." "Then who is she?" "Someone dangerous." His voice cracked. "Someone who's done this before." A black SUV pulled up. Laura stepped out, her smile predatory. "Having a father-daughter moment?" "Stay back," Mark warned, stepping between us. Laura laughed. "Oh, Mark, still playing protector?" She pulled out her phone. "Emily's getting quite bored at the lake house. Should I ask Davidson to entertain her?" "Touch her and I'll—" "You'll what?" She held up the property papers I'd signed. "These make everything legal. The house, the land, all of it. By tonight, Davidson's demolition crew moves in." "Demolition?" Mark turned pale. "That wasn't the deal." "Deals change." She checked her watch. "Speaking of which, the police should be finding Tom's body right about now. Tragic accident. He really should have been more careful on those stairs." The world tilted. Tom's final warning about Laura's real identity echoed in my head. "You're Catherine's daughter, aren't you?" I said quietly. "The one who disappeared after her husband died mysteriously 20 years ago." Laura's smile vanished. Mark stepped back, realization dawning on his face. "Mother knew," I continued. "She recognized you somehow. That's why you had to silence her." "Clever girl." Laura's hand moved to her purse. "Just like your mother, too clever for her own good." "The police will find evidence of Tom's gambling debts, his suicide note, just like they found your mother's prescription overdose." She moved closer. "The question is, what will they find when they investigate your accident?" Mark grabbed her arm. "This ends now." "No," she pushed him away. "It ends when I say it ends, just like before." My phone buzzed again. Emily. "Got away. Don't trust Mom. She killed—" Laura's hand shot out, snatching my phone. "Emily needs to learn obedience, like mother, like daughter. She's your child. She's a liability, like you." She turned to Mark. "Choose now, her or me." Mark looked between us, 26 years of absence hanging in the air. "I'm sorry, Jenna," he whispered, stepping beside Laura. "Good choice." Laura smiled. "Now, Jenna, about that USB drive." I backed away, Mother's last message burning in my mind. "Davidson's office. The proof." "You can have it," I said. "It's in my car." As they moved toward my vehicle, I ran. Behind me, Laura's laugh echoed off the bank's marble walls. "Run all you want, dear. But remember, I know where Emily is, and accidents happen so easily at lake houses." I didn't stop running. Emily was out there somewhere. The proof waited in Davidson's office, and Mother's voice guided me forward. Sometimes, sweetheart, the best revenge is letting them think they've won. Davidson's office loomed before me, its windows dark except for one, third-floor corner office, where Mother said the proof would be, where Emily's text had originated. I picked the service entrance lock, a skill learned from Tom before Laura had gotten to him. The stairwell camera's red light was dead. Mia's handiwork with the security system. Voices echoed down the hall as I reached the third floor. The demolition crew is ready, Davidson's voice. Once the house is gone, the evidence disappears. And my daughter? Laura, still sedated. She won't remember anything about tonight. I edged closer, phone recording. And the other one? Davidson again. Jenna? Laura's laugh sent ice through my veins. Currently hunting ghosts in your filing room. Mark's watching the entrance. My father's voice joined them. This isn't what we agreed. Shut up, Mark. You lost your vote when you let Catherine figure it out. I reached the filing room, fingers trembling as I searched for 2012. The drawer was empty. Looking for these? I spun around. Laura stood in the doorway, holding a thick folder. Behind her, Mark wouldn't meet my eyes. Mother knew what you were, I said. Catherine's daughter, the one who killed her own father. Stepfather, Laura corrected. Just like I killed his first wife, Catherine. Just like I killed your mother. Family tradition, you might say. Why? Money, power. The thrill of watching people realize too late who I really am. She dropped the folder into a metal trash can. Want to know how your mother looked when she finally understood? Stop, Mark pleaded. No, let's tell her everything. Laura struck a match. How Catherine begged for her daughter's life. How easily the prescription drugs mixed into her evening tea. The folder caught fire. How Tom figured it out too late. She smiled. Poor Tom. Those stairs were so treacherous. Emily knows, I said. She'll tell. Emily won't remember anything after her unfortunate overdose tonight. Tragic, really. Following in her sister's footsteps. Sister. That's right, Laura's eyes glittered. Emily is Catherine's daughter, too. My little sister, hidden away all these years, until I found her. The room spun. Emily, my sister, Mother's daughter. Mark knew, Laura continued. He helped hide her back then. His payment for embezzling from Tom. One secret for another. I tried to protect her, Mark whispered. Both of them. By letting their mother die? He flinched. Enough talking. Laura pulled out a syringe. Time to join the family tradition. I backed away, but Mark grabbed my arms. I'm sorry, he said. She'll kill Emily if I don't. I fought, but Laura was already moving forward, needle ready. A gunshot cracked through the room. Laura staggered, blood blooming on her shoulder. Behind her, Emily stood in the doorway, Tom's gun steady in her hands. Get away from my sister, she said. Laura lunged. Another shot. This time she fell. Mark released me, rushing to Laura's side. Emily's hands shook. The police are coming, she said. Mia called them. We have proof, everything, the videos, the files Tom saved. Tom's dead, I said. No, Emily smiled shakily. He's downstairs with Davidson, very much alive and very ready to testify. Laura laughed, blood staining her teeth. You think this changes anything? The house is still mine. The demolition is canceled. Tom's voice came from the hallway. Along with your entire operation, Sarah Williams. Or should I say, Laura Davidson? Davidson? I turned to Emily. James Davidson's first wife, she explained. Before she killed him and stole his company. Before she found Mark and learned about her sister's daughter, me. Laura's face contorted. You were mine, my second chance. I was never yours, Emily said, and now everyone will know exactly who you are. Police sirens wailed outside. Laura's eyes met mine, all pretense gone. You think this is over? She snarled. You think you've won? I picked up the burning folder, now only half destroyed. Yes, I said, I do. Why? Because Mother taught me something you never learned. I watched the evidence of her crimes smolder. Real family protects each other. They don't destroy each other. The police burst in, and Laura's facade finally shattered completely. In her eyes, I saw what Mother must have seen at the end. Not a monster, but something far more dangerous. A broken woman who'd never understood what family truly meant. Emily took my hand as they led Laura away. Behind us, the sun rose over Mother's house. Still standing, still ours, still home. The prison visiting room smelled of bleach and desperation. Laura sat across from me, orange jumpsuit stark against her pale skin, handcuffs glinting under fluorescent lights. Come to gloat? Her voice was hoarse, but her eyes still burned. I need to know why. I placed Mother's photo on the table between us. The whole truth. Truth? She laughed. Which one? How I killed my stepfather when I was 17, how I found Emily, my sister's secret daughter, and molded her into my own? Or how your precious mother figured it all out? Start with Emily. Laura's fingers twitched toward the photo. The guard tensed. Catherine was always the golden child, she said. Even after she got pregnant at 16, they protected her, hid her away, gave her baby to a friend to raise, Mark. Her smile turned cruel. He never told you why he really left, did he? The pieces clicked. Mother found out. She recognized Emily. The resemblance to Catherine was striking. Laura leaned forward. I spent years tracking my sister's child. When I found Mark, it was almost too perfect. He needed money. I needed access. Emily needed a mother. She had a mother. You killed her. Catherine was weak, like your mother. Both of them so concerned with doing the right thing. She spat the words. They never understood. Family is power, control. Is that why you're here now? To maintain control? Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I pulled out another photo, security footage from Davidson's office, dated last night. Laura's attorney passing her something during a consultation. Tom's been watching The Office, I said. Even from jail, you couldn't resist trying to destroy one last thing. You don't know what you're talking about. The demolition crew, the one you hired to accidentally start a fire at the house tonight, during Emily's welcome home party. The mask slipped, just for a moment, but I saw it. The rage, the desperation. You think you've won? She hissed. That house holds secrets you can't imagine, documents, evidence, things that would destroy more than just me. Like these? I slid forward one final photo, the hidden safe in Mother's study, open and empty. Laura's composure shattered. When? This morning. Everything's gone. Everything you tried to hide about Catherine, about Emily's real parents, about all the others you've destroyed. I stood. It's over. Wait, her voice cracked. What are you going to do? Nothing. Nothing? The evidence is where it needs to be. Emily is home. The house is safe. I gathered the photos. You've lost everything, Laura, just like you made others lose everything. That's punishment enough. You're lying. You want revenge. What I want is to go home, to my sister, to the life you tried to steal. I turned to leave. Goodbye, Laura. I'll tell them everything, she shouted. About Mark, about Tom's part in it all. They already know. Mark confessed this morning. Tom testified an hour ago. I looked back one last time. That's the difference between us. Real family protects each other, even when it costs them everything. The guard moved to escort me out, but Laura's voice followed. She cried for you, you know, your mother, at the end, begged me not to hurt her daughters. I stopped. She died thinking she failed to protect you both. My hands shook, but I kept walking. Outside, Emily waited by the car. Did she tell you? Everything. I handed her the photos. About Catherine, about why she really targeted our family. Emily stared at our mother's picture. What do we do now? My phone buzzed. Mia. Demolition crew intercepted. Fire marshal found the accelerant. It's done. Now, I said, we go home. We honor both our mothers. And we live, really live, knowing Laura will spend the rest of her life watching us be the family she never understood. As we drove away, I glimpsed Laura at her window, a small figure growing smaller, her power finally reduced to nothing but bitter memories and prison walls. Emily squeezed my hand. In her face, I saw echoes of Catherine, of Mother, of the strength that Laura had tried to destroy, but had only made stronger. Together? She asked. Together, I answered, and drove toward home. The lavender bloomed exactly where Mother had planted it. Emily knelt beside the garden bed, carefully transplanting the new seedlings, while Mia documented everything for the Historical Society's preservation records. Found another one, Tom called from the porch, holding up a hidden camera, the last of Laura's surveillance network. He dropped it into a box already full of similar devices. I stood in Mother's study, now restored to its former glory, except for one addition, a framed photo of Catherine, Emily's birth mother, placed beside Mother's desk. Two women who'd loved their daughters enough to die protecting them. The doorbell rang. Mark stood outside, looking older than his years in his court-mandated monitoring device. The prosecutor offered a deal, he said without preamble. Full testimony against Laura's other crimes in exchange for house arrest. And I turned it down. Taking responsibility means accepting consequences. He handed me an envelope. The last of the documentation you'll need. Property deeds, bank records, everything. From the garden, Emily watched us, her expression guarded. She asks about you, I said. She shouldn't. He stepped back. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some fathers don't deserve forgiveness. No, I agreed, but some daughters need closure anyway. He nodded once, then walked away. Emily returned to her planting, but her shoulders relaxed slightly. Inside, I found a letter mixed in with Mark's documents, written in Mother's hand, dated the day before she died. My dearest Jenna, by now you know about Emily, about Catherine, about the web of lies that brought us here. But there's one truth Laura never understood. Family isn't about control or power. It's about choice. I chose to protect Catherine's daughter when she couldn't. I chose to love you both as my own. And now you must choose, not between justice and mercy, but between letting revenge consume you or letting it teach you. The house is yours, both of yours. Make it a home again. All my love, Mom. A noise made me look up. Emily stood in the doorway, dirt still on her hands. I remember her, you know, she said quietly. Catherine, not clearly, but feelings, moments, like the way she smelled of lavender too. I held out the letter. She read it, tears falling onto the paper. Laura wanted me to be Catherine's replacement, she whispered. But your mother, our mother, she just wanted me to be me. That's why Laura hated her. Mom saw through the control, the manipulation. She saw what family really means. Emily traced Mother's signature. Do you think we can? Make it a home again? Through the window, I watched Tom and Mia working together, erasing Laura's presence piece by piece. The garden bloomed, Mother's legacy growing stronger with each new plant. Even Mark's silhouette, retreating down the street, seemed more like a closed chapter than an open wound. I think, I said, we already are. Emily hugged the letter close. I keep expecting to feel different. After everything, learning about Catherine, watching Laura's sentencing, understanding what they all did to protect me, shouldn't I feel different? I thought of Laura in her prison cell, still trying to control us even now. Of Mark, choosing punishment over escape. Of Mother and Catherine, two women who'd sacrificed everything for love rather than power. Maybe that's the point, I said. We're not different. We're just more ourselves than they ever wanted us to be. The doorbell rang again. The Historical Society Committee come to officially designate the house as a protected property. Soon they'd ensure no one could ever destroy this place or its memories. But first, I had one last thing to do. In Mother's desk drawer, I found her old garden journal. On the last page, I wrote, "The lavender blooms again. Emily tends it now, just as you did, just as Catherine might have. The house stands strong, protecting new memories while honoring old ones. And we understand now what you tried to teach us. That true power isn't in revenge or control, but in the choice to love, despite everything that says we shouldn't. We chose to be sisters. We choose to make this a home. We choose to live." I closed the journal and joined Emily in the garden, where Mother's lavender scented the air with memories of all the women who'd loved us enough to set us free, 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 enough to set us free.